Okay.
I'll give the intro. Okay, so then maybe then you can get started. Okay, so this is the next fourth, right? I guess one, two, three, fourth session of our series of webinars for creating your own web application, right, from scratch and then deploying it onto the web so that other people can use it. Okay. Thank you all for attending. Right. Typically in these kinds of classes, like the first class is well attended and then it drops out. Only the people who really want it attend towards the latter classes. So thank you all for attending. Uh, Today, Surur is going to be talking about actually taking this library which we built yesterday and then making it into a web application using a framework called Flask. Okay. This framework is a Python library which is used for building web applications. Okay. And using this, we can actually convert the library which we wrote yesterday into a web application, which you can access via your browser. Okay. We will finish the basics and then we will actually style it and make it look nice. And then finally, at the last session, we will deploy it also. Okay. Deploy means we will put it out on the internet so that your friends also can use it. So thank you for attending once again. And Surur, I think you can go ahead and start.
Okay, thank you. So we'll start where the last session left, that is with the library. So I'll just start with presenting my screen. Okay, I hope my screen is visible.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, thank you. So this is the GitHub page for our last page, Wiki library. We have the Wiki here. So we'll start from the scratch here. We'll start from this, but first thing, as we discussed in the earlier session, we need a virtual env because we are going to use Flask, which is a third-party library. So for that, we first create a virtual env. Those who have already created a virtual env in the other session, please activate it. That will do. Python is have 3.8 and I'm going to call it Wiki. I think that was the name of the what we created before. So now I'll go ahead and activate my virtual env. So that's going to be wiki bin activate. You can see that I have my virtual env is active by looking at the indication here. It says wiki. Now the first thing we are going to do is clone yesterday's code. We're going to use Git all through the class. So the first thing I'm going to do is clone the code from the which is Git. And paste that. You guys will have the code already, so just go into the directory. You can see I have my wiki here. We'll go inside my wiki. We have the files here, the wiki.py library, or pages. Inside pages, we have Moon and Python, which we created yesterday. And today we're going to put that onto the web. Let's just have a look at have a review of the wiki library for now. I'm also going to use GE. On yesterday we have 3 functions, which is one is save page. It lets us save a page into the wiki. we have to give it a title and the content of the page. The next one is load. We give it a title of the page. It returns back the content. If the file is, if no such page is there, it will give back no information on this topic. And finally, we have list topics, which will give us the list of all the pages that's there. We're going to use these three functions in our web app. Now, to give you an overview, I've kind of split this session into 4 parts. So the first part is going to be, we are going to write like a hello world program of the web, hello web, if you will. So that will, we'll write a Flask app, a very basic one, which will just say hello world on your browser. We'll also make an HTML file and use that. In the second part, we'll start viewing the articles, the articles that we have here in pages. That's Moon and Python on the browser. After that, we will after that we'll kind of modify our Hello World front page to list all these articles, and you can like click on an article to see that. We'll do all that kind of things. And the final part, we'll write a web form to actually write new articles. And we'll say that when you write a new article, it will automatically come up on the front page. We'll see all that, and we'll wrap up. So let's start with the first thing then. For that, what I want you guys to do is, I want you guys to open a file called app.py in the MyWiki directory. For that, let's see if we have a Flask installed. I just created a virtual env, so I might not have Flask. I don't have Flask. If you have activated the virtual env from the previous session, I think you have installed Flask already. It's very easy to try. Just open Python and try importing Flask. If it throws an error, you don't have Flask. If nothing happens, you have Flask. Keep install Flask. Get me going. So now I have Flask. I can just confirm. So happens, that means I have Flask. Okay, now coming back to the GUI. So Flask is something that's called a framework. The framework, you have seen libraries yesterday, right? You have seen the OS, you imported OS. You did this kind of stuff, import OS and os.path.join. You used all these things. We used all these things in the Wiki library. So we have os.path.join. So OS is kind of like a library. It provides you like functions to use to create whatever you want. Frameworks are similar to this, but they sort of have a way for you to write code. You write code in such a way. They're like a plan mostly. So you follow this plan and write code will help you build applications of a certain kind. Here, Flask is a web framework, which is basically you follow their plan to write some code, specific kind of code. They'll help you build a web application. We'll see what it means shortly. So first thing we need to do here is import. Do some imports. One is the Flask application itself. From Flask, we import something called Flask. Then you need an app. Your web application is going to be initialized this way. You can copy this. This is basically what Flask, like I said, Flask as a framework. This code needs to be there for Flask to help us create our web application without much hassle. I'll just pause for 2 minutes so you can copy this over, and if you have any questions, you can ask me also. Please ask questions on the chat. I'll be looking. Okay, let's. So this code is required for Flask to run. Let's try this out, shall we? Save the file as app.py. Now come back to your terminal. Okay, I have this open. Now what you do is Python app.py. You'll see something like this. So this means that your web server is up and running. It shows you a URL which says, see, you can see here, this is the URL you're going to be using. So I can just copy it. I'll copy that link. I'll go to my browser. I'll open it, paste it there. Now if I press enter, it will say not found, right? That's because we have created an application, but we haven't told it what to do basically. What does this application do? What happens? So one thing I want you to notice is this thing. This is the web address of your web application up to this part. So this part can be anything like google.com, whatever that is the name of your server. What we are interested in inside our app is this part, whatever comes after this, that is including this slash. You see this slash here? The slash basically means it's the home page. So we'll go ahead and write a home page for our application. So writing a home page is as easy as, you guys all know how to write a function, right? So it's as easy as writing a function. So I said def home, doesn't take anything. I have a function called home, and I say I'll return. I don't want to do anything with it. I just want to display something, right? So I say return. Let's call it hello web instead of hello world. Hello web. Oh, okay. This is a typical Python function. How does it come into a web page, right? So that's where Flask help you. So network programming, like receiving calls over HTTP website calls and processing that is a lot of work actually. So Flask does all this for you, provided, like I mentioned earlier, you write code in some way that they specify. So Flask, what Flask wants you to do is, they want you to put something over your function. These are technically called decorators, but we don't need to be worried about them right now. So you just say app.route, and you provide what the root is, slash. Remember the slash? That's a slash from here. So whenever the application, what this fifth line basically means is, whenever the application, whenever your browser points to slash, that's your home page, run this function and display whatever it returns on the browser. So you say this, you restart your browser, the server basically. So you press Ctrl+C you can press Ctrl+C here to stop this. You run it again. This time, This time, if I load this page, voila, you see hello web returned from here, right? Any questions, any doubts up to this point? You can copy the code. You can copy the code and try it. If any questions, you can just ask me in the chat.
Hey guys, you can actually ask questions right now. I think Surur has been in this field for I think 3 years now, right? Yeah, so feel free to ask questions. You can ask questions in Malayalam or in English. It's completely fine. So this is a good opportunity for you to kind of learn what like have questions, have queries, and get answers to all of that. So feel completely free to ask questions. It's all right. So we'll be able to help you a lot better. And like now, I think Naufal has said this on the last session as well. So if you're actually trying this with us, you will have questions and you will have queries, and we might be able to help you out a lot more. So do try out the code as well. And yeah, so there's one question's come up.
Yeah, so underscore name is basically the name of the file. That's Python has a representation inside that. So I can show you that right now. So here, I'm just stopping my server here. Just stop that. So if every file in Python has a underscore name. That's an internal representation. So if I say import, let's import our app itself. Import app, and I say app dot underscore name. We'll say app, right? This is basically the import name. This name, not the app.py name, but this name. What name Python knows it as. So to extend on your question, like we are using that here, right? But we are checking like if name equals main, but the name of the file is the app, right? Yeah, it's similar to init. Yeah, it's an internal thing. So why we are checking main here is when we are running, you saw that when we imported the name was app. But when we are running something like this, Python main app.py, Python calls this file as main. When we run like this, the file that we are giving to Python, it will be called main. So what we are basically doing is, if this file is imported anywhere, you don't want to run the server. You just want to use the functions inside that. If this file is run as it is, you want the server to run. That's what differentiates here. This is usually a practice when writing Python scripts, which are meant to be imported and also run by themselves. Okay, app.root. So this @character is used to denote something called as a decorator. That's a Python thing. Decorator is a whole different topic, but just understand that this basically is equal to writing home equal to app.route of home. So what it does is it does some processing on the function that we are defining, so that it is web compatible. So that when we actually when we called our URL here, that app.root makes sure that this function is run and the result is given back. So in the Flask context, in this context, you don't need to worry about that, because you'll see later where we are going to use that. We're going to use the app.root directive to specify URLs. We'll use it more. It'll be clear. So it's generally called decorator, which is a different topic, but good to know. Is that okay, Rafmas? Okay, so I hope everyone is seeing the hello world on their browsers. If someone is having trouble, please do say it in the chat. Okay, so we are not done with the hello web, right? This is just a string. You run a function, you get a string. We'll go on to the meatier part now, which is HTML files. Some of you might have actually worked with HTML files. Some of you might have seen it. Some of you might be hearing it for the first time. So HTML files are basically what you see on the web. So I take google.com. What you see here, this is an HTML page. I can actually show you the page, I think. Yeah. So this is what that looks like. Please don't be alarmed, but that's just Google. We are not going to do things like this. This is what this page looks like in HTML. So when we are building a web app, we also need HTML files. So Flask has something. Flask wants you to put your HTML files in a specific place, which is called templates. So I want you to do this with me. So create a directory called templates and create it templates. Now, I'm going to put something called home.html inside my templates. I'll just stop it from being that easy. I'll add new. I'm going to save this into home. My wiki templates. I'm going to save it inside templates as home.html. Okay. So I'm going to take 5 minutes to talk about HTML. So every HTML file has something that are called tags, which is basically this, looks like this. And every HTML tag, not everyone, but most of we'll see the differences later. But for now, every HTML tag has an opening tag and a closing tag that has a slash around it. This is basically like doing this, open a bracket, close a bracket. That's the basic understanding I want you to have for this. So, and everything inside an HTML, this open HTML and close HTML is an HTML. Now, every HTML has two parts, which is head and the body. So these are basically everything in HTML is a tag. Yeah, doc type HTML from HTML5, it's kind of optional. So if you don't specify doc type HTML, it's HTML5. And also that has wider implications, like depending on browser implementations and stuff. But that's not something we need to consider right now. Okay, so now the body is the part where you are seeing this. Close Google. Body is the part where you're seeing. You'll be seeing things like this, where we actually put content. And the head part is what you see. Head part is used for like internal things. This thing, for example, our server, it shows up here as the address itself. On the other hand, Google has a logo here, the name Google here. This all comes up as these are all set in the header part. We'll see that. Let's set a header there. Before we set a header, let's start our server. Now we have an HTML file here, but we haven't. We are not like we haven't connected our application and the HTML file. So if I do this now, it still shows me hello web. So how do we connect that? So Flask provides you with the tools for that as well. In your app.py, from the import, we'll extend the import. We'll import something called render template. So the render template helps you send back HTML files. Instead of returning hello web, we'll move that. We will say render template. And what do we want to return? We want to return home HTML, home.html. So here you don't need to specify the template slash home.html. You just have to say home.html because Flask by default expects all your HTMLs to be inside a templates directory. So it will look you can configure Flask to look other places too, but that's some advancements. You usually keep your templates in templates. Now let's see. Okay, so now we are saying if I go to home, I should get my home.html. Let's see if that's right. Okay, so now I have to, since I changed my code, I have to restart my server. For this is a handy thing. So this is like a time-consuming thing, right? This is a hassle. You change something here, you change a spelling mistake, you want to restart your server. So what we do is we pass something called debug equals true here. You save that. See here debug mode is off. Now if I run this, it will say debug mode is on. And I can do, let's say I change my, I'll change this, I'll change the spelling. Now if I save this, it will restart. See, detected change in home, and it will restart automatically. That's just a bit of thing. So let's see if our home.html comes up. There's a restart, and we'll go into the browser. Refresh. Yeah, it's empty because we haven't put anything in our home. Okay. Now, first thing we'll say inside the body, we want to say hello web. Now, if I don't bother writing it out right now, I'll just show you something. And when we finish, you can copy the code. So now it will just say hello web like before. Nothing seems fancy, right? So I'm going to introduce you to a new HTML tag, which is called h1. So H series of tags usually stand for headings. So h1 is a biggest heading, it's a main heading. H2 kind of, I can show you. H2, H4, I think there is up to H6. So I'll just show you H4. This is another heading. So H1 like shows you a bigger heading, H4 is a smaller heading. You have sizes up to H6. So let's call it hello web. Instead of hello web doesn't look very good, does it? We're creating a wiki. So let's say, let's put our heading there, my wiki. Okay, so that's okay. That looks good. Now, one more thing we talked about that we can fix at this point is what shows up on this title bar. That can be fixed inside the head. You say, in head, you say something called title. You set a title. Like I said, every HTML tag has an opening tag and a closing tag. Closing tags you should have a slash before the name. The title will put the same my wiki as the title. Now, if we go back to the browser, we have my wiki here, and we are displaying my wiki here also. So that's how we have HTML files. So to recap, now just to recap, we created a simple homepage for our web app. We used Flask. We used render template to return HTML files. and we wrote a simple, very simple HTML file. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add all this to Git and commit this. So I will add app.py and our new file, that's home. So git commit and create a hello world web app. That actually wraps up the first section that I talked about. That's a hello world program. It's mark it as done. You guys might want to copy this code and try out. So I'll put 5 minutes aside for you guys to try this out and ask any questions. Please do ask questions. Malayalam പ്രശ്നമുള്ളതല്ല. If you want to. If you have trouble typing, just let me just open your mic and ask. Okay. Let me see if I can show both side by side. Two files. Okay, Neeraj, your terminal, if you open your terminal, you will see your what error is happening. Okay, Hannah. So if we have multiple pages in HTML, do we need to create function for each root, or is there any shorthand method? Okay, so the next thing we are going to do is exactly that. We are going to write another route for displaying the articles. So one thing is, this is a web application like this is kind of different from how we write websites, static websites, for instance. So for static websites, we can just create the HTML files and use the name tag to link between them, right? This thing actually you have some processing happening. So usually what happens is you call a URL and some processing happens, it returns back. We can have attacks and all between URLs. So we'll see that. We'll come to that. So let's get along with the next section. Neeraj, please, if you're still facing the error, please paste that here. We'll take it up. So we have the home HTML, we have a web page here, we have home page and all that. But the next thing we want to do is show our articles here. We have Moon and Python. I hope all of you have like, Neeraj, you have not imported render template, this line from Flask, import Flask, render template. Okay, so continuing. So we are going to, I hope everyone has the python.txt file, right? So we're going to select that. We are going to display python.txt on the web. Then we are going to, that way we'll see how we take content and how we put Python variables into the HTML and all. Then we are going to generalize it so that we can view any article. Let's get started. So I have python.txt here. So the first thing that I need when I'm using Wiki is my Wiki library. So I do an import of it. I say import Wiki. Sorry. Import Wiki. Then I write a new function which is def view page. So I'm going to view a page here. We're going to view the Python page directly. So I say I want my title is Python, and where do I get my content? So I have wiki.load page. I just called that from yesterday's library. It's a wiki.load page of this title. And yes, I can just return it here. I can just return the content here. For the sake of this, let's just return the content here. We'll create an HTML page shortly. So, but Flask, writing this function by itself is not enough. Flask wants us to do one more thing. That's app.root here. Adding an app.root here. I'm sorry for the mistake again. Root. What do you want to call this? Let's call this article, or let's call this page. It's how we find this is you go to this page. What's our URL? This is our URL. And anything after this is our root, basically. So for our home, we selected slash. Slash is the home. That's coming from here. Now we want slash page. So now whenever we enter this into the browser, this is slash page into the browser, this function is called and content is shown on the page. We'll see. This was the content from Python. If you see it here, cat pages slash. Pages slash Python. We have the same content over here. Now, again, just as the case of the home page, we don't return directly. We want HTML pages. So we'll use the same way, render template. We'll call it page.html. Now, we don't have a page.html yet. So let's go ahead and create that. I have this. So HTML page, we can just copy it from here. That's fine. We're going to keep the same head. Every title is going to be my wiki. Okay, let's call this page. Sorry, artist. And inside templates, we're going to create page.html. So we don't want the my wiki here. Let's get rid of that. In the body, the first thing I would like to put here is the title. I want the title to be visible. I want my title here. Somehow I want my title here. And under that, I want my content. Title will probably use H1 for title itself. H1 itself. And now we have something new that's called a paragraph. So this is how you represent a paragraph in HTML. It's a P, it's called P, a P tag. Anything you put in here will be displayed as a paragraph. Now if we go back to our browser and we reload this page, you will see title content. So HTML page is rendering properly, coming up properly, but we don't want just title and content there. We want our title to be Python and we want the content to be displayed. So how do we do that? So render template actually, you can see it takes one argument, which is the HTML page. It can take other arguments. And I'm just going to show you here and we'll talk about it. So I'm going to say page title equal to title. So I can pass something called page title to render template. And I'm going to say page content equal to content. So that's content from our wiki and the title. So now what render template does here, some of the extra processing that render template allows us to do here is use this page title and page content inside this HTML file. So I remove this. So this is a thing in Flash templates. You want to put some of these Python variables into HTML. You use a syntax like this. You open two curly braces and you close two curly braces. Anything put between this should be a variable. So you can just put page title here. So where does that page title come from? Here, this argument. So let's see if this works. Then we will go to the content. So I'm not showing you the terminal every time because it will reload. You can see that every time I save it is reloading because of the debug equals true setup. Now reload this. You can see Python. Cool, right? So Python is here. So Python is coming. So page title is getting displayed properly. So let's do the same thing for content. I'll add the double curly braces, and inside that I want to show my page content. Okay. So now if I reload this, so we have a page. So now we are viewing Python, like I take /page, Python comes up. What? I want to be able to, how do I get the moon article? Hello, am I still audible?
You're audible for me.
Okay. My screen is visible also? I think I'm having some trouble with my browser.
No, I'm able to see that particular /page web page as that the Python one with the contents.
Okay, yeah. I think I had a trouble with my browser.
Hello, Silver.
I
Are you
think
there?
my browser is messing up. So,
Okay.
hello? Rohit, am I audible?
Yeah, now
Or?
you're audible. You went out for some time, then you came back. That's okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay. So, any questions till now? We're going to.
Guys, if you have any kind of questions, you can ask right now because we'll just take 1 minute or so to taking questions in any way. And I think regarding the whole source code and all, we'll be sharing the source code with you on the same repo that Bala has shared yesterday. So you will be able to download it from there itself. So at the end of the session, so it'll be fine. So if you guys have any kind of questions or queries, you can ask right now. Fine. Just take 1 minute or so. So I think Neeraj just asked if he could show this code so that they can do, code right with you as well.
Okay. I think there's something's happened with my.
Yeah, you've left the meeting right now, so we'll just wait for him. I think he's having some kind of internet issue. We'll just wait for him for a minute and we'll get back. Hey, so can you hear me? I think you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry guys, my system messed up. So,
Okay.
sorry. Yeah. Somebody was asking something, right?
Yeah, Neeraj was asking if you could show the particular code for the.
Yeah, here. So you don't have to copy this code or this code as such. I'll give you time to go along with after time with a small little topic, one more topic. So now
Yeah.
we have sorry about all the ones. Now we have this thing here. We are seeing the Python article on the web. That's all good, but what we want is we want our all our articles to be viewable, right? We want Python, we want Moon, we want the moon.txt to show up. So we need a generalized stuff thing to show use. So instead of that, what I'm going to do is here I just hard coded the Python name. Instead of hard coding that name, I want what if I can get it as an argument here? That should make things easier, right? I say, I get call my view page with an argument. Whatever that title is, I load that. I give it to my render template. It shows up here. Works. So that should be interesting, right? So also, to do that, let's look at who calls the functions. So we know that with using, because of this app.root, when I go to this URL, when I say /page, Flask understands that this function is to be called and calls my function. So what if I can ask Flask to okay, provide these arguments also, provide title to this function. So Flask has a way to do that. So you can write something in here in angle brackets, and Flask takes that part and gives it to you as argument. So if I put title here, and now what happens is if I type in here /Python, this part, the part that after if you look at the code, if you look at the code / then we have put title inside angle brackets. So that part, that's especially this part, Python part, it will cut out and pass it here. You can see that if I run this code, it will actually load the Python page. So if I call this URL, it will show Python page. To make it clearer, if I say moon will start showing up. So basically, any URL, the URL to any of your articles is the article's title name. So now what we have done is, so this is like the end of the second part of our thing, part of today's session. Second part of today's session, so in this part, what we did is we created a new URL for us to use, and in that URL we can view any articles that are available. We created an HTML page that will show the article with the page title on top, then the content as a paragraph. We also used arguments to render template to fill that part, to process Python variables into HTML file. We learned about passing arguments to our functions, our Flask functions. Now, one thing I can show you right now is that what if I give a URL? We have Moon and Python. We know that we have them. So Python, I type Python here, it comes up. So what if I type something here which is not present? I say error. What will happen? That's a question, right? Since we are passing this to this as arguments or functions are actually going to run. So what will happen? So right now, this is what happens. It says no information on this topic. Why did it come as this? Because we already have some error handling in the wiki. Zoom in. Because if we give a non-existent article, it says no information on this topic. Right now, it looks good to us. Like you ask for an article that exists, it tells you the article. If you ask for an article that does not exist, it shows you there is no information. So that looks good, right? We don't have to do any more modification to the wiki part. So we have covered the second part with that. We have the articles. We have the wiki and error correction. We have the HTML page, and that's it. So now you can copy, you can try out this function actually. And questions, of course, questions are welcome. So please try it out yourself, and please if there are any questions, please ask. Please do ask. Also, let me know if you want me to open the HTML page, HTML code. I don't know if I can just. Okay. These are both the codes. I'll wait for like 2 more minutes for questions. Also, let me know if you have trouble running this.
So hey guys, were you able to follow up till now? Like if you have any kind of issues or doubts, or Suru can help you out there, or if not, we'll slowly move forward with the other topic. So we'll just give another minute or so that you can write the code if you want to, or if you have any doubts or anything, do let us know so that we'll be able to help you a lot more. So be you have to take it's always good to take your opportunity to ask questions, because you actually have a person who's in the field, who's been working for this particular things for some time. So you can take a good amount of queries, and he might be able to help you out as well. So try to utilize your time that you get here as well. So
So one thing, I would like to revert back to an earlier question. If we have multiple pages in HTML, do we need to create function for each route, or is there any shorthand method? I hope this section actually covered that. What was the question? What was the office name? Hanat PP. I hope this section actually answered your question. Okay, thank you. So I'll wait for 1 more minute. So 3:10 to go to the next section. All right, let's hop on to the next one, where we'll be adding list of articles to our homepage. So coming back to our homepage, it's just this and a slash. So this kind of looks ugly, right? Ugly in the sense I need to know what my articles are. I need to know that I have Python and type in here /Python to see that. So it will be a really good idea if I can link or at least list the articles here. We can use the same method as we did. I close this off. We can use the same method as what we did here. So we can say we'll take the home.html. Hope it's that visible now. Okay. My wiki lets our title stay there. Then I'll add a next paragraph and all these things, bells and whistles. Now here I'm going to say titles, or let's say page titles, just to be consistent. So page titles. So now I want to pass this page title along with this. So I do page titles equal to what? Oh, we don't know what the titles are. So wiki to the rescue. So we have titles here. We have titles equal to wiki dot from location of python.text and moon.text should be in pages from the wiki library. So we are using this thing. If you're using the wiki library to open and close the files, I'm answering question actually from the chat. So since we are using the wiki library and we are creating this web app on top of that, it will be the Python text and moon.txt will be in the pages directory here, ls pages. It will not be in the pwd. Pwd will be the home here. It will be inside pages. You can, if you're doing this from the same in the same directory from yesterday, you'll have that. Or you can just create something. That's fine. You can create a text file in the pages. Okay. Yeah. So let's go on. Whatsoever is here. So wiki. So wiki gives me something called list topics. So I say wiki dot list topics. No arguments, of course. Now I can say titles is. I can pass titles here. That should do it, right? I have titles. I'm passing it as page titles. I have it put here. That should do it. Yeah. Only it can't be reached. Why? I have an invalid syntax. Yeah, I saved it before. Sorry. So I saved it with an error. That's why it happened. We have now fixed that. Home. This is here. So now see. Yeah, the titles are coming up, but the tech.txt is still there. It's just a list of files. Let's say nothing else. So how do we do that? Let's just go back to wiki and see why this is happening. So here we are doing nothing else. We are just calling the list topics from wiki and just displaying that. So let's go back to wiki. Okay. So this line here, the 26th line, it actually makes it into one string, everything into one string and returns. This was very useful when we were trying out the wiki library. So, but since we are processing it further, we don't need this. So let's take that out and return pages. Okay, so let's see what happens now. So what happens now? Okay, now it just prints the list. What? Right. So we want to print one by one inside the HTML file. So we have titles already passed. We are doing everything. So here, instead of just simply saying page titles here, we take this off. And we want something like this, right? Python. Then let's say moon. We want something like this, of this sort. So also we want what? We don't just want Python and moon. We want everything that's returned from the titles. So title here is a list. We saw that earlier. And so what we have is, it would be really nice to have a for loop here. Kind of feel that, right? If I had a for loop here, I could just do a loop and something. So actually, Flask gives you that opportunity to insert HTML files. So remember this, right? So Flask has something else that looks like this. Let's open curly braces, percentage, and closing to close that percentage and curly braces. This is usually used for if, for loops, and some functions also, I think. So let's, for loop is just the Python for loop. You can say for title in page titles. We have past page titles back here. Now I can say I want P, and here I don't want to say Python and all. I want to say put title here. Okay. Now in Python, when we do a for loop, we don't need to like try except. We don't say like we use the indentation to specify when the if ends or even the try block ends. So Python knows after this line, it's no longer inside the try block. But for HTML, we have open HTML, close HTML, open head, close head. Similarly, since this is a HTML file, we need a closing. We need to say where our for loop ends. We use the same syntax, same brackets, and we say end. What are we ending? For loop. So we say end for. So now everything inside this will be, I'll just indent it a bit for understanding. Yeah, I'll indent this to this once more. Okay. Should be neater now. You don't need to, okay. You don't need that indentation. Okay. So let's see what happens now. I go to my browser. Yeah. The text is still there, but it's happening, right? Let's take care of the dot text extension later. Now we want to make sure that this really works. So for that, I'm going to manually add a new page. I'm going to call it earth. So we go back. We go to our pages, and I call it earth. So we call it earth dot text. And I'll go back to my we go to our Wikipedia page, we copy some content. Okay, let's copy some content. Let's get something that's big. Let's just copy all this. Copy this. Paste that. We'll just okay. Looks fine. So now if you see here, I have 3 articles here: Earth, Moon, and Python. So by definition, our list topics will pick this up and pass it to template, render template. Render template will use the loop here to add that to our page. Let's see if that happened. I'll close this off. I'm reloading this page. Voila. So we have Earth also coming up. Now I know, like, okay, moon.txt is there. Why is moon.txt there? Because I can't just, okay, we have an article about Python. I'm going to take that. Python.txt. No information. Right? Because we are using, for our URLs, we are just using Python. So let's fix that now. Okay. So we are getting the list from Wiki. So we go into Wiki. So now, okay, you can see what the problem here is. We are just doing os.lister. os.lister is just like this. We are doing ls pages, nothing else. So OS has something else. You have seen the os.path module already here. Pages path, os.path.join, which actually joins the path names properly with the correct syntax and all. Now we'll see a new method from that. Python, we'll say file name equal to something python.text. Let's use that itself. Now in both OS, we need OS. Now os.path has something called split extension, split text of file name. What this basically does is gives you something like this. It splits the extension out and gives it to you as a tuple. So you have Python and .txt is the extension. So now after we split that, if we take the first element of that, you get Python only. Let's use this logic to give us the proper file name, proper topic name instead of the file name. Okay, let's hit this. I copied it already. Here I paste it, but it's just we will have multiple files. So I'm going to create say something like topics equal to an empty list. Now so you are seeing lists in the basic Python introduction, right? So I create an empty list for now. I'm going to loop over my pages list. For page in pages. This will actually give me what? This will give me only the topic name, the title only. So I want to take that and put it in the topics list here. I think you have seen this method, the list.append method. Basically adds a new item to the list. So I take this and I add it to the list. So now, now we are not doing anything here. We are just taking that and displaying it same as before. So if I go here, I think I made some mistake. Okay, topics.
I think you've made a small typo, I guess. For page and thing, yeah, you called file name.
It's a tab thing.
Oh, okay. All right.
I have I'm not using tabs. I have file name is not defined. That's because we copied it directly. So this is not file name. This is going to be page. Now one more thing I just saw is that we didn't change this. We want to return topics, not pages. Now, okay, our application is running. We have this. Okay, now that looks cool. We have all the correct things. I say, oh, I want to know about Earth. I look at that, I type in Earth. Earth comes up. Okay, good. But again, that's also an inconvenience, right? You see the list of things here, but you have to type it over there. That's another inconvenience. So, so we go to home.html. We'll keep the P here, but we'll add something called what's called an A. So an A tag basically means it's a link. A tag basically means that it's a link. You see links all over, right? You see links all over the place. Like here, when you click this, when you click issues here, that's a link. You can click and it takes you somewhere. You click on pull request, you click something, it takes you somewhere. So these things are achieved using a tag. So a tag, just an a tag will do nothing. You need to tell it when you click, I want you to go to this place. So you say href That's supposed to tell it where you want to go. But now it's the problem, right? You can't tell it to go to /Python. Because if we do that, what will happen is, yeah, I'll just show you what will happen. So now what will happen is, this is fine, everything is this, and I click Python, it shows me Python. But if I click Moon, it goes to Python. So we want Python to come up with Python. When Python comes in title, we want Python to be here. When Moon comes in title, we want Moon to be here. For that, we have something from the Flask. We have something that comes with Flask, which is called, okay, whenever we are putting something, we use, from Flask, we use curly braces, double curly braces. And this thing is called URL4. This is a function. So we have function. What it takes as argument is the function name. So when you say URL for home, it gives you \. When you say URL for view page, it gives you \title, but you want to provide it with title. We'll see. So I say URL for, what I want to do is view page, but not just view page. I want to view, the view page will actually throw an error because we want some extra information. We want to know which page we want to view. See, so could not build URL for endpoint view page. Did you specify value title? So most of the error messages in Python are really simple. 90-95% of the time they tell you exactly what went wrong and exactly where it went wrong. So we need to give it the title. That's only because we are using it to call the function here from earlier. So we need to say which title needs to be given. Simple enough. We are inside the Flask bubble anyway, using this. So we just say title. Save that. Let's go back here. It's one positional argument. Okay. So again, tells you exactly what's happening. So we can't just give it like this. We need to say title equal to. We need to do it like this. Title equal to this. Now if I load this, we have the same thing, but I click on Moon, Moon comes up. I click on Earth, Earth comes up. And I click on Python, Python comes up. Right? So that's, yeah. So that brings us to the end of the third section. Let's just recap. We changed wiki.py a bit. You can just copy this wiki.py code right now so that I can show you both. We can just concentrate on the app and HTML files only later. I'll just pause for 1 minute. Just make the changes, list topics, just make the changes as needed. After I have made these changes, I'll just cover what we did in this section. And then you can, we'll do a 5-minute question answer and trial section. Okay, I hope you have copied this. So if you want me to go back to the wiki.py, please let me know. So in the third section, we listed at the topics, all the topics that we have on our homepage. Then for that, within that, we looked at how to use a for loop inside the template, inside HTML pages. Then we saw how to give links in HTML pages. Then we also saw that how we can use URL for to create dynamically create URLs. We'll come with this all together after the next section. So I'll just open this in new windows for you. Open a new window. Show app.py here. I'll just magnify it a bit more. Yeah.
So guys, if you have any kind of questions, you can ask now. So now is the right time to ask.
Yeah, you can. This will be the best time to ask about this section or any of the previous sections. And please try out the code. I'm trying to make as little like steps between trials, code tryouts, but do let me know if you have trouble.
Okay, are you guys with us? Like, can we get some kind of response in the chat or something? So are you guys all good, or like, do you have any doubts, or like, shall we continue? Got it so far. Okay. Does anybody else have any kind of doubts or queries that you have? You can ask right now, so it's completely fine. Or I think Surur, I think you can start. You can continue the rest of the session.
Yeah, we'll just wait for one more minute, maybe.
Okay, all right.
Just for them to get copy the code and try. Okay, so shall we start the last final section? I hope that will get interesting because we are going to use web forms to create articles instead of just uh, opening up text files and saving them. Okay, so first thing, let's, yeah, so we have this done, we have done this. Next thing is write new articles. Okay, so sorry about that. As usual, we have the usual boilerplate things coming up. We have we'll write a function def. I'm going to call it write page. No inputs. For that, we need one more thing, which is app.route. I'm going to say this needs to be slash. This is one thing to remember. You should always take care of. That is, whenever you write a root, this first slash is really important. It should be there. If you look at all this, there is a slash, then there is a slash title. Then now for this one, we are using slash title. That slash is really important. That has to be there. It's app.root slash whatever you want. Okay, so we have that. As usual, we'll do this return render template, and let's call it write.html itself. We have that. Now we want we'll add a new HTML file which is called write.html, but we'll go inside the directories first. Templates, and we'll say. Now let's go to the home. Let's just we are doing a lot of copying HTML codes, but no problem. Let's just take care of the body. Get rid of the body. Now, as you guys have already seen, we have one title for this here. Okay, it's not. We have a title, we have given a title here, my wiki. When you open a home page, if you look at the page, the title, we have the title, page title here. So let's go with the flow and add a title here, which will be create new page. That's what we're going to do. Now, make sure this works by going to our browser. We have slash write. So now, I want you guys to look at your terminal where the application is running. Now, you see many things, right? When this is running, what I want you to look at, I want you to, okay, just look at it on my screen right now. These four lines. So these basically tell you what URL was called, which route we tried. So here you can see that slash Python was our root, slash moon, just the slash. And if you go even further down, you can see that slash write is here. So that gives us the information of that. Now HTTP 1.1. This simply means that we are using HTTP protocol, which is what every browser and HTML page area server uses. So that's going to be everywhere. You'll see it everywhere here. Here is HTTP. Now 200 simply means that our response was okay. Like it was successful, it worked. You can actually see a different code here. You see here, it's slash HTTP and 500 because we had an error. So those are HTTP's way of saying, the web's way of saying something has happened, something is okay, kind of stuff. So we don't have to worry about it. The other thing I want you to see is this thing, get. So get get is basically what it means is you have asked for something, asked the application to give you something. That's what we have been doing all this time. We asked our application to show us the home page, like give me the home page. We say give me the moon article. All these things go as get, if you see here. But now, right now, what we are going to do is we are going to gives something to the application. We are going to say, I want to create a new article. Here is the title, here is the content, and we are going to say, ask the application to do something on the back end. So when we are giving something to an application, giving something, we use something else that's called a post. That's different. So post, actually, we'll see it all in action, but to get the definition out of the way, get and post. So it will be like this, post. So get basically retrieves something from the server. Post actually gives something to the server and something is changed on your application. So post is used to make a change. And since that's used to make a change, it can be dangerous, right? Like somebody wants to put some malicious things into your server, post is going to be called. So because of that, Flask restricts what if you, on a URL, if you can do a get call or a post call. By default, only get is allowed. We'll have, so one thing we have to do here is allow post. We have to allow post here for us to be able to write an article. So that's the Flask side, but first we need a form to write that. So you might have seen, let's take GitHub for, I don't know if I'm already signed in. Yeah, I'm already signed in. Let's take GitLab. So if you take GitLab, and say sign in, sign up. You see this, right? These things are called forms. You will have a description of the field. These are called fields. You have some place you can type in. I can type in my username here. You have a password field where if I type something, you don't see it. So we are going to create something of this sort so that we can write articles. Okay, I stopped it. We have our page here. So let's do the HTML side first and see what's happening. To create new pages here. So in HTML, every form, HTML has a tag for form, of course. So in every form, let's say we want to give the title first. We know what a p tag is. We'll just say p title, then p, another p, another p tag, and say content. The title and content have come up here. Now inside this, I'll put another p. Okay. So in here, what I want to put inside this is, I want a text field. I want something what we just saw, something like this. So HTML provides something that's called an input tag. So remember in the starting when I told you like not all tags have a closing tag? Input is one of that. You don't have to do a / input. Completely unnecessary. But what input we have to say is we have to say what type of input it is. So right now we have text. All this should be in quotes. That's an HTML standard. So now we have text. There are multiple types. Okay. If you change this to number, or example like this. Okay. We change this to number and reload. You see, I can't type any letters there, but I can type numbers. And due to different browsers have different ways of dealing with this. But in Chrome, you get something like this, like an increment. Then if you put it as password, I know some of you already know this, but just spell it for those who are new. So if you say it's password and I reload it, now whatever I type will be like this. So we obviously want text field. I keep it as text. Okay, so now that's there. Let's keep a text field for content also. Input type equal to text. So that we have two text fields. Now, we talked about get and post, right? So how does HTML know from this to whether it is supposed to send a post request or a get request? Neeraj, we don't need BR because paragraphs, p tags actually stack up. P tags don't go line by, p tags don't go on one line. You can actually see that here. Okay. Since this is these are inside p tags, it will actually be stacked. Okay, so we need to tell this somehow, like we want to send a post request. So form has like this type and href that we saw earlier, href from here. Form has something that's called method. We say that's going to be post. We want to post things with this. Now that's also set. We have we know we are supposed to send post. We have a text box. We have another text box. Now we want to, like, this form needs to somehow be sent back, right? For that, there is a we'll use p tags for arranging. That's the easiest way to do this. Now there is a special input type. We saw text, we saw number, we saw password. There's a special input type here, which is called submit. Submit actually takes this input and this input. Think of them as user inputs as usual. This and sends it back to the application. So this will actually show up as a button. See here. So I can click this. It says method not allowed. Remember what I said about Flask not allowing post calls by default? So root here, app.root, we can say methods equal to get. Of course, we want to show the template, and we also want it to us to be able to post. So we have now allowed post, so we can remove this comment. Now, if I go back here and write, and I say, what do we write about next? Let's type C. This the C is bigger than a river. Let's say some obvious things. Now, if I submit this, nothing happened. What? It just showed the page again. So we send a post request, right? Let's go back to the home page. Let's see. We added the earth page and it showed up, right? So let's go back there. No, C is not here. So what happened actually? What happened here? We are supposed to like send this title and content back to the server, and it should have created an article, right? So the point is, what this means is app.root, if write comes and either get or post, call this function. But we haven't made a difference inside the function. We haven't said like if it is a get call, you do something. If it is a post call, we do something. right? So to help with that, we have something from the Flask. So we make a new import. After render template, we have something that's called a request. Request actually gives you access to some extra things, like whether it's a get or a post, or if was any data sent back, all those things. So request has something called if request dot method. Request has something called method. So let's say if request dot method is equals get, what do we want to do? We want this, right? Now if request dot, let's call it elif, else, just else, if it's either get or post, right? In this case, if it's that this is the case, we want to call wiki dot save page. Wiki dot save page, but save page wants a title and a content. So from where do we get this? That's the next question, right? So we have something here. We have an input here for title. We have an input here for content. But how do we get that back in our application? So the first thing we need to do for that is we need to give names to these fields. This is just HTML. This won't be picked up by the application. Only the input fields can be taken up by the application. So how do we understand what is content and what is title? So for that, we need to give them names. This is basically like variable names. So we said the name of this field is title and the name of this field is content. So now when you click submit, it knows it goes back to here. So again, we said whatever is in the request object lets you do stuff, right? So request also has something else that's called the request dot form. As the name suggests, when you send a form back, it comes up in here. So this is, you guys have seen dictionaries, right? Things that look like this. It's not foo equal to things like look like this. A is A for apple. What one? B for things that look like this. That these are called dictionaries. I think you have seen this in the introduction Python intro class. So we have, how do we get something out of this? You say foo of A. You got apple. You say foo of B, you get back. So request dot form kind of works the same way, similar way. So for you to get the title, you say request dot form. Imagine a dictionary whenever I say request dot form. That will help you out. So from where do we get the title? So we check the name here. This is title. Okay. So that title comes up here. To avoid confusion, let's call these things page title and page content, shall we? Call this page title. Call this page content. So now, when we send back page title and page content, it will be contained inside request.form. So which is a dictionary. So we just address page title. We say we can have content equal to request.form page content. All right, let's see. So now we have title and content. We can save the page. Let's try that. First thing to make sure my server is currently running. Yeah, it's running. I go back to my browser. I just reload this page and I say C. I say again. Let's type in the equation. The C is larger than river. Now I click submit. Something happened. All right, something happened, right? The view function did not return a valid response. The function either returned none or ended without a return statement. Exactly. So since we send a post request, you can see that here we have sent a post request. We have sent a post request. Since we send a post request, it came back to this place. Now this place doesn't return anything. So for a web app to work, in any condition, you have to return something. That is the error that's happened here. See, it did not return anything. So we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that returning thing. Let's just see if we saved a page. Two ways to look at that. One is like you go here, come here. Just a second. Sorry about that. You come to our terminal and you ls the pages. There is something called c.text. But since we are doing web app now, what's the way to do that? You come here, you go to the home page, and you see that C has come up. We have a new article. You click on that, you see what we have given. So this basically means our writing an article is working, but what do we do after that, after we have saved that? Like everything else made sense, right? You ask for homepage, you return a homepage. You ask for some article, you want to give me article, and it gives you article. This time we are not saying like give me something. You're saying take this and do something with it. So what do we return for that? So you can do many things, but to be like something that we want to make sure is we have saved the article correctly. So for that, what I want to do is I want after I write something, let's say we wrote a C article, right? And just when C article is correctly saved, I want to see this page. So how do we do that? We have something new that's called, so we always anyway have to return something. We know that we have something called URL4, right? URL4 has to be imported from Flask. We have used that here. We use that the same way. URL4 and URL4. What's the URL we want to take? For view page. And not just view page, we want a title equal to our title. But just this URL is that enough? Let's see. Let's just create a new one. Go back to the right page. We'll create something that's called ocean. We'll just form something else in it. And ocean is even bigger than the sea. When I submit this, it just tells me it's /ocean. What? That's also something that we don't want. So Flask has something for us that is called a redirect. So now it's redirect. So redirect, what it does is asks the browser to go to this URL, go to whatever URL is given here. So now if I go to my this thing and I go to write, let's write a proper article this time. I want to write about fish. It's wiki. Let's get a Wikipedia article. Let's get let's get all of this. Let's try. I'm going to paste this here. Let's submit. Now you see, instead of just showing /fish, it came back to the URL. All good? So now just one more change that we can make. This, we just created the fish article, right? This just doesn't, for the title, it's okay. I can write fish here and all, but this seems very, very like small for the content, right? This has so much content in there, but it's very small. So instead of using an input type text here, I'm going to use something else, which is called a text area. It's called a text area. This is a whole different tag. We should give it the name because we want it to come back to our page content. Now, what text area can do is, see, text area can be, I paste something here, it looks like this. It lets you type in a more of an article kind of way. Also, when we, this is also small, right? So we can specify the starting number of things. So we can say rows equal to 20, maybe 20, and columns is shorthand for calls is shorthand for columns, equal to, let's say, 100 columns maybe. So let's see what happens here. This is just specifying things. It comes up as like this. It's still adjustable, but it gives you more of a feel that bigger things should go here. Now, so we have that, we did some of that. Now, how do you guys feel there is something else that's missing? Like, okay, this is all fine and good. I can come to the home page, but how do I write? How do I go? I can see my articles here. I can go back, moon, ocean. I can take this, I can go back. But how do I get to the writing page? So we'll edit our home HTML. And before we list the articles, we are going to add a link. We're going to add an ad tag, which is going to be extras. Since we are using Flask, we are not going to directly put any URLs. We are going to use URL 4. I know it's already 4 o'clock. This will just take 5 more minutes. Sorry. URL 4. This should be, what is our function called? Write page. So we should be calling write page. This will be URL for write page. Now, if I look at my, I think I saved that. Okay, I didn't give it anything. Sorry. Write, create page. Let's just call it create page. Now, if we come back here, now create page link also. Take that, it comes back here. Cool. But it kind of looks like all the other things. Like I click on Python, I click on Ocean, I kind of click on this and see a different thing. So let's give it a different look. So instead of just creating this link here, I can make it a button. I'm going to make it a button. So button actually, as the name suggests, creates a button. It's another HTML tag. So now create page is a button. Everything else, there's a clear distinction. This is the heading. This takes you to someplace else. These are all articles. So that wraps up the final section of our web app. In the final section, what we did is we talked about how we did the whole thing, that is, write a new function, write a new route, write a new HTML file to go with that. Other than that, we first talked about get methods and post methods, how we retrieve data and how we send data to the server. We talked about HTML forms. We talked about input types and naming them so that we can use them in the app, and also submit buttons, that's another input type. Then we talked about redirects so that we can send people to other URLs. Then we also talked about request so that we can see if whether we can, like in our application, we can see whether we are getting a get request or a post request, or if somebody else sending data to us, how to access that data, how to access data from the form using request.form. And finally, we added a button to the home HTML. And so we saw how to create button, how to create a link using a button. I think that's clear for all of you. I'll open up this in new window so that you guys can.
And so I think you can actually push this to that Git repository.
Yeah,
right?
I will be pushing that. No, for them to, if somebody's on trying this out. So we made changes to this function here, if you notice. And anyway, we are taking questions, right? We'll take 5 minutes out for questions also before we wrap up. So you can try out. Here, this is the home.html. Sorry, I just showed you home.html. I'll put up write.html here instead. Okay, here is write.html. So please take this time out to try out and ask questions.
Oh, by the way, you guys can actually pat yourself on your back because you just created a web application within a day.
How much did we take? We started at 2 ton, right?
Yeah, we started in 2:10.
Just marks 1 hour 59 minutes, I guess. So please ask any doubts that you have. This code will be pushed to GitHub. You can get it from there. But if somebody is trying it out, please try it out now. And any doubts, anything at all, please ask. I know we have covered a lot of like a big piece in the last section. Like we introduced get, post, and form, all request and all. So if you are feeling like you have doubts, please ask. Virtually envy. Okay, so virtually envies are mostly like, so we are developing using Flask here, right? So Flask, let me just check the version. We can do that. Quick freeze. These are, sorry for the other guys, but Oh, sorry. I haven't activated it, right? So if you look at this, these are all the things that are installed right now in my Python's path. So I have Click, Flask, It's Dangerous, Jinja, Markup Safe, package resources, and these are the versions. So I have Flask 1.1.2. These are all installed inside my Python itself, my Python installation itself. So let's say I'm going to work on another project which requires, let's say, different version of Flask. Let's say I want Flask 1.00. So now, but if I install Python Flask 1.00 there, my other project will not work because it requires 1.1.2. So virtually these are like separate installations of Python. Once you install something into there, it is staying there only. Is that clear, Rafnas, or do you want some more clarification? Okay. Anybody else? So how was the session today? Were you able to follow things, or was there any difficulty to follow along? You can unmute yourself and talk. That's fine. മലയാളമാണെങ്കിലും കുഴപ്പമില്ല. എല്ലാവർക്കും മനസ്സിലാവുന്നുണ്ടല്ലോ അല്ലെ? കാര്യങ്ങൾ പറയുന്നതൊക്കെ ഫോളോ ചെയ്യാനൊക്കെ പറ്റുന്നുണ്ടല്ലോ?
Yeah, I think so. It's time for us to wrap up as well. So,
yeah. Okay.
So can you actually push this code to GitHub? So I'll put the link for the students to look for their code. So once you push, I'll just put the GitHub repo link as well. So you guys can actually get the code from that particular URL. You can clone it and you can have it as a reference, so that you'll know what you guys are doing. So if you've missed any portions of the whole session, we'll also be recording we've also recorded the session, so we'll be sending that as well. So there's a question from Neeraj. I think we can take one more question and we can wrap it up.
Yeah.
So Neeraj was asking, sir, I'm unable to access the right page. What could be the reason?
Are you having any specific errors, or is it just not found?
So if it's like a not found, you might have not created that particular HTML file within the templates directory. Yeah, not defined.
There might be some imports that were missing. Can you check that? I have the code open here.
So I think Neeraj, you can actually you can actually look at the GitHub repo and you might be able to get the code. So if at all you've missed something, you'll be able to see it there.
So not defined will be something is not defined.
Yeah, which means you might have not you might have not imported something. So you can actually take that as a reference. Okay. I would suggest not to copy the whole thing. Yeah, sorry.
So the new things we have introduced a request URL for and redirect.
Once again, thanks everybody for coming in and joining the session with Surur. I hope you were able to kind of understand how a Flask app works and how to create your own Flask app. And since the whole thing is right now in Git repo, you might be able to get the source code and everything. So I think by tomorrow we'll be actually deploying this particular Flask application onto the websites or to the internet. And so I guess you guys will have a little bit of homework, like you can get your Flask app up and running by today. So you will actually be able to deploy your particular Flask application to the web, to the internet. And tomorrow's session will be handled by me. So we'll be learning a little bit about CSS, how to style things, and how to properly deploy it into the internet as well. So I guess thank you all for coming. Thank you, Surur, for taking this really good session for us as well. This is very informative as well. So you were able to finish it off within 1-2 hours, right? Complete the whole Flask application, which is really awesome. So yeah, so I hope you guys we'll see you guys tomorrow as well, so that we can be able to beautify the whole web pages and deploy it as well. Yeah, thank you, Surur.
Okay. Thank you, guys. All of you have been great audience. Thank you.